Hello and welcome to another edition of the Rugby League Forecast podcast. My name is Connor Moran, and today I will be reviewing the North Queensland Cowboys 2025 season. So the Cowboys finished in 12th position, and in my opinion, Todd Payten probably deserves one more year. Really important that the Cowboys start well in season 2026, considering their season in 2025. And when I think of the North Queensland Cowboys in season 2025, I think they showed a lot of attacking flair. They were able to score points quite easily in many games. And they're one of those sides that where once they had momentum, you couldn't stop them. Um, they could score about 18 points in the space of 10 minutes if they wanted to, but where they let themselves down was obviously their defense. And I think that was a key issue for the Cowboys in 2025, their defense. I think the player Scott Drinkwater, their fullback, he to me symbolizes what the Cowboys are doing at the moment, where he is just such an attacking flair. He can score so many points, set them up. He's always on the leaderboard in the top few of trying to get that Dally M medal. He's a terrific player, but defensively he can struggle. And I really like Scott Drinkwater as a player, but I've got no doubt that in the off season that would be a talking point in his game where defensively he needs to work on that part of his game. He can miss a few tackles from that fullback position. And I think he's a good communicator. He talks well. When you watch the games, he's talking non-stop. So he does communicate well, I feel, when watching him. But I just think that the Cowboys, he symbolises them at the moment where attacking flair, but defensively really struggled in season 2025. Um, to be fair to the Cowboys, many people, including myself, didn't have them in the top eight going into season 2025. Just based on the fact that Cole Felt, for me, he's not your. He's not the elite winger, and he's not the best winger the game has ever seen, and he probably wasn't ever in that sort of category. But I just felt that him leaving was a huge loss. Based on he reminds me a lot of Daniel Tupou for the Roosters, and he may not be as good as Daniel Tupou, but just in terms of consistency, and you knew that he was going to be reliable, and I feel like as a winger, he was a real leader in that side. Especially in that 2022, 23, 24 period, I felt like Cole Felt was one of their best players for a large portion of those years. And he saved games. He knew how to score a try. Defensively, he was quite strong, but I felt that he was a huge loss, and that was a concern going into 2025. In defense of the Cowboys, yes, they finished 12th, but they had many injuries. Helam Lukey, he was a huge loss. He was out for the season before the season started, and he to me, we talk about the consistency factor. To me, he's more consistent than Jeremiah Nanai. The way in which he can, um, he's one of those players where you know what you're going to get. And Jeremiah Nanai, as much talent as he got, as he does have, and as consistent as he is, um, well, I wouldn't say consistent. Sorry, I'd say he's got talent, Jeremiah Nanai, but that's where he gets himself. Um, that's where he struggles to find the consistency that a player like Helam Lukey that does not have the same athletic ability, does not have the same talent and natural born talent as Jeremiah Nanai does, but Helam Lukey does have the consistency. You know what you're going to get from Helam Lukey. He's an 80-minute edge forward. He's a great player, really good player, and they lost him massively in that 2025 season. The shining light for the Cowboys in season 2025 was no doubt Jackson Purdue. He was playing centre for the majority of the season. He then shifted into the halves midway through the season, ended back into the centres. But I think is he a fullback? Is he a centre? Is he a 5'8"? I think his position at the moment is probably centre for at least a couple of years, and then perhaps moving into the halves down the track. No doubt he's got the ability and the athleticism and the fitness to play fullback, without a doubt. you've got to remember that there's centres such as Tom Chester and Zach Laybut coming back into the side for the Cowboys as well. So does that mean, Scott Drinkwater, does he go into the sixth jersey? Does he? Because when Drinkwater first came to the Cowboys, I think it was 2020, 2021, he wore the number six jersey alongside Chad Townsend. Um, so yeah, going to be really interesting to see where Jackson Purdue plays in 2026. But he was outstanding for the games he played for the Cowboys. He was absolutely fantastic for them. Uh, Nobody could stop him really, and in games where the Cowboys were defeated with 30 minutes to go, he would do something brilliant. And you could tell he was just a player that never gave up on any play. And that's exactly what the Cowboys need. And there are question marks going into 2026, but I'll say this, I believe they're going to be the big improvers in 2026. I may be wrong, but I don't want to come on to this podcast and not have predictions. And I'm one of those people that I get it wrong all the time, put my hand up and get on with it. But I just feel that the Cowboys they have a lot going right for them at the moment. I think Dearden, with what he did in Origin last year, coming in to replace Cherry Evans after he got dropped in Game 2 and Game 3 last year, I thought Dearden, that those two games show that Tom Dearden's a number 7, not a 6. He can run a side around. His kicking game, especially his short kicking game, is outstanding. He can direct the forwards around, and I think Todd Payton, if he doesn't let Dearden wear the 7 to start the season, then there's some serious issues there. He needs to be the 7 moving forward, and I believe that that will happen. Really interesting to see what's going to happen there with um, Jake Clifford. For me, he should start the jersey. He should start in the number 6 jersey. Clifford's long kicking game is outstanding. Also a really good goal kicker. At times when they did play together, Clifford and Dearden, they haven't really combined as well as what I would have liked to see if I'm a Cowboys fan. But in saying that, Clifford is a really good player. I actually think he's an underrated player. His kicking game is fantastic. If you remember back in the 2022 season, he started the season with the Knights alongside Tyson Gamble in the halves. And Clifford wore the 7, and he did a really good job there for half a season. He did a really good job in that number 7 jersey, and he can play football. Obviously, he was at the Cowboys before he went to Newcastle. Now back at the Cowboys, I think he needs to start 6. Jackson Purdue to start in the centres for the Vegas game. Jeremiah Nanai most likely ruled out alongside Griffin Neem for the Vegas game for round 1. So that is a concern going into that game. But I think the Cowboys, if they're going to do well in season 2026, they're going to have to start well. Because in 2025, they went to Brookvale Oval, they got smashed by Manly, absolutely pumped by Manly. In fact, the Cowboys, the players gave up in that game. They absolutely gave up in that game. And then round 2, Cronulla go up to Townsville and, just Cronulla were quite poor as well, but it was just a real poor quality game. It was a packed out crowd at the stadium there up at Townsville, and I just thought that I've got no doubt that Todd Payton will be discussing how important the start of the season will be for them in 2026, and they can build momentum from that. What I do like about the Cowboys in 2025 is there were games where, yes, they would have big leads, and yes, they would give up big leads, but there was a sense of resilience within the side as well. The classic example of that would be alongside the when they versed the Tigers in the final round of the season at Leichhardt Oval. The Tigers had everything going for them. They should have won that and won that well, but the Cowboys somehow found a way. They believed in themselves. They believed within um, the game plan of what the side was given, which was to throw the football around, very similar to the Tigers' game plan as well. But Todd Payton, I think he needs to be the coach moving forward. I think he gets to the Cowboys 2021. They have a disappointing year that year. They're rebuilding. 2022, they get to a prelim final. 2023, they miss out on the finals. 2024, they get to week 2 of the finals. 2025, they miss out on the finals. Now, 2025, as I mentioned, they did have a lot of injuries. And one thing that does concern me, I thought Reece Robson had a pretty good year for the Cowboys, especially the first half of the year. Probably wasn't the same after the Origin period. I've got to say, but um, him leaving's a huge loss. I've got Reece Robson in the top three best hookers in the game. You've got Harry Grant, Reece Robson, uh, Appy Coruscant. You've got some gun hookers. I'm going to throw Jacob Little in there as well. Um, Jacob Little at the Tigers was not the same player he is now. So what Shane Flanagan's done with him at the moment is outstanding. Yes, I know he's a bench player. He's a utility and can play lock. He can fill in at hooker. He's a 14 for the Dragons at the moment. But when he plays dummy half, ever since he's gone to the Dragons, he has shown what he's all about. He's a terrific number nine. I wouldn't put Jacob Little in that elite number nines, but I'd put him up there as one of the best. But back to the Cowboys, I think Reid Marnie is also in that top tier hookers of the NRL, and I think Reid Marnie is he a like for like replacement. I've probably got Reece Robson a bit better as a footballer than Reid Marnie at this stage of his career, but I do believe Reid Marnie will bring not just his talent, his aggression, but he will bring that mongrel to the Cowboys where I think they really lacked that sort of protector in their side when they were getting smashed or they were getting bullied, not just in the game physically, but mentally they were getting rattled. I feel like they lacked someone to go, hey, we're not going to be bullied at our home ground in Townsville. I reckon Reid Marnie is going to give the Cowboys exactly what they need, and that is that mongrel, that prick, and that real, hey, you ain't going to bully us. You're not going to bully us anymore. And I think Reid Marnie will bring that to the Cowboys. And when I say prick, I mean it in the best way possible because I think every football team needs a Reid Marnie to get under the minds of those that underestimate him, underestimate the team, and it can rattle you. I mean, if you look back at 2019, Reid Marnie was playing for Parramatta, and Cameron Smith, he got under the skin of Cameron Smith. No one could do that. Hardly anyone could ever get under the skin of Cameron Smith, and it was Cameron Smith that ended up getting sin binned. Reid Marnie won that little battle. So the Cowboys, I reckon that there's going to be a real theme in 2026 of we're here to play finals and we ain't going to get bullied anymore. And Reid Marnie knows that he has a huge responsibility, not just as their 80-minute hooker, but as a responsibility to make sure that his discipline improves, yet to still have that bastard in him where he can come up to players and get under their skin. So I think Michael Ennis was really good at it. I feel that he was as influential as a dummy half as he was as getting under the skin of other players. So I think Michael Ennis found a really good balance, and I think Reid Marnie struggles with that balance. I think sometimes he can focus too much on the poor discipline side of the game to try and get the win, rather than focus on what exactly he needs to do for that 80 minutes. I'm surprised the Bulldogs have let Reid Marnie go in the top tier hookers of the game. Harry Grant, Reece Robson for me are the best hookers of the game at the moment, but Reid Marnie, um, look, I mean, he's a good replacement, isn't he? I mean, it could have been worse. There aren't too many great dummy halves out there at the moment, but Reid Marnie's halfway through his career, and I reckon he's got a lot to prove, and I think he'll have a really good year at the Cowboys. And in my opinion, he's one of the big reasons why I think the Cowboys will turn their season around in 2026. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say they can win the minor premiership, but I do believe that they can do something really special in 2026, make the finals and prove a lot of people wrong. Um, there are questions going into the 2026 season, as I mentioned, that 2025 didn't really answer for us. And I think that could have been one of the reasons why they struggled in 2025. Of perhaps there were too many questions for Todd Payten and the side of, am I playing this player in the right position? Are they buying into the game plan? For me, Scott Drinkwater, is he the long-term fullback? He has to be. He just needs to work on his defence. His ball playing is so good out the back. It's quite rare how good his ball skills are. Not many fullbacks. Fullbacks have skill, and a lot of fullbacks have the ball playing skill that Billy Slater and Darius Boyd sort of brought into the game for the fullbacks. That draw and pass close to the line in the red zone. Drinkwater's amazing at that. So I would not move Drinkwater, but he needs to fix his defence as soon as possible because his defence out the back is a real reason they struggled last year. It really was. Um, uh, Jason Tamalolo, where does he play? Well, for me, in season 2025, the first half of the year, Jason Tamalolo was incredible. I thought he was really influential. He showed that, sure, he's not living up to his pay packet, but I think we can all accept, and I'm sure Jason Tamalolo would accept himself. He's not the player he was in 2017, 2018. Um, he just isn't anymore. He's had serious injuries over the years, but his experience is vital. I feel that, uh, honestly, I think Jason Tamalolo should start front row. Now that Jordan McLean, a veteran forward, is now going into retirement, I think perhaps Jason Tamalolo goes in that number 8 jersey or number 10 jersey alongside Griffin Neame when he'll come back from injury. Um, uh, Jason Tamalolo, where does he play? For me, prop, because I think Ruben Cotter, you need to keep him in that 13 jersey. I just think his defense is too good. He's a good ball playing lock, Ruben Cotter. He's got the mixture of it all, where he can just take hit ups. His ball skills are incredible, especially close to the line and in attack, putting other players around him in holes. Really interesting about Ruben Cotter too is if they were really short, if Reid Marnie got injured and a backup hooker got injured, Ruben Cotter can play hooker as well. He actually played hooker for the Indigenous All Stars, and I'm going to say in 2021, 2022. Um, he's a really good player, Ruben Cotter, but for me, he's a 13 and a terrific 13 at that as well. Um, so in 2025, the Cowboys only had 9 wins. Um, for me, their best win was when they beat the Raiders in round 4 in Townsville. Considering the Raiders ended up with a minor premiership, I thought that round showed what the Cowboys are all about and what they can do. Um, considering the roster they had, it was a really disappointing year, I thought. But in saying that, you can only have 8 teams in the top 8. And as I mentioned earlier, they didn't have, they just didn't play consistent football. They had injuries, but I do feel that perhaps at times they did lack depth. Um, yeah, I mean that's the Cowboys review for season 2025. I just if I'm a Cowboys fan, I think there's a lot of green shoots coming through. Zach Laybut, he tore his ACL last year, I think it was, and Tom Chester, and you've got I know Carl Lawton, I think, has moved on now, but you do have Griffin Neame, he's re-signed for a few more years, and Reid Marnie, really excited to see how he goes in 2026. I just think that perhaps um, it doesn't help if Tom Dearden plays half the season in the 6 and then changes to the 7, and then you swap in the halves around him in and out, Jackson Purdue, Jake Clifford. So Todd Payton really needs to know who his fullback's going to be, who his 6 is going to be, who his 7's going to be, and Reid Marnie will no doubt be the 9 and most likely an 80-minute hooker. But they need to get the balance right. What do they do to find consistency that they lacked in 2025? I reckon they just need to work on their defence. They've got such great attack, incredible attack, but they need to work on their defence. And that's, I mean, uh, I'm just saying what everyone knows, like it was pretty clear that their defense was extremely poor in so many games. And you look at the players in that side of 2025, Reece Robson, really good defender. Tom Dearden, really good defender. Scott Drinkwater struggles defensively, but very influential. Ruben Cotter, Jeremiah Nanai, Griffin Neame, it just goes on and on. They've got so much talent in their side. Um, but I do think in season 2025, as I mentioned earlier, Kyle Felt was a huge loss. He was no doubt a huge loss in that side.